On the 20th of April 1918, at 1800 hours, east of Villers-Bretonneux, a squadron of British aircraft encountered a formation of Fokker triplanes, including the infamous red aircraft of Manfred Von Richthofen. In the ensuing battle, several British Camels were engaged and overpowered by the colourful German fighters. What follows is the description of this combat in the words of the man who would forge a record in air fighting, not broken for another 23 years by another German airman over the Eastern Front. On this day, the British formation was being led by Major Raymond Barker, who had literally come up through the ranks. Returning to Britain in 1914 from his new venture as a farmer in Canada, Raymond Barker entered the army as a private. By 1915, he had transferred to the RFC, gaining his Aero Club certificate at his own expense. By April 1918, he had been promoted to major and was leading 3 squadron. Manfred von Richthofen describes his encounter with Dick Raymond Barker as follows.
With 6 planes of Jaster 11, I attacked large enemy squadron. During the fight, I observed that a triplane was attacked and shot at from below by a Camel. I put myself behind the adversary and brought him down, burning with only a few shots. The enemy plane crashed down near the forest of Camel, where it burned further on the ground. Baron von Richthofen.
Major Raymond Barker was likely killed by a long-range shot from von Richthofen's guns. His body was never recovered, and he is commemorated on the Arras Memorial to the missing. However, von Richthofen was not finished for the day. He then engaged another Camel who, as fate would have it, would become MVR's final and most famous victim.
3 minutes after I had brought down the first machine, I attacked a second Camel of the same enemy squadron. The adversary dived, caught his machine, and repeated this maneuver several times. I approached him as near as possible when fighting and fired 50 bullets until the machine began to burn. The body of the machine was burned in the air, the remnants dashed to the ground, northeast of Villers-Bretonneux. Baron von Richthofen.
The man in this Camel was Second Lieutenant David Greswold Lewis, who was ultimately much luckier than his commanding officer. The Rhodesian was hit in the gravity tank, which flared up in flame, but he managed to survive the crash. Crawling out of the wreck, which had crashed yards from Raymond Barker's funeral pyre, a DR-1 flew low over him as the pilot waved. This must have been von Richthofen himself. It has been speculated that this was to get confirmation from the ground, Lewis being assumed to be a German soldier, as MVR thought he had killed both pilots that day. After being repatriated following the end of the war, Lewis returned to his native Rhodesia, where later in life he survived a brutal ambush on his vehicle during the Rhodesian War of Independence. This famed final survivor of the Red Baron died at peace in 1978, 60 years after the man who almost killed him. Please like the video to help it spread to others, and for more combat reports, subscribe to the channel. You can also find exclusive combat reports and resources on the website, dogfightdebrief.com.